What's a secret you'd never tell to your family? Story 1. I've been using weed regularly for over a decade now, and honestly, I'm high most of the time, probably around 80%. Lately, I've been thinking about taking a break, but instead of quitting entirely, I'm considering switching to cannabis oil capsules. My goal? Stay just a little high all the time, not just most of the time. Maybe what I've needed all along was proper medication, but after trying several prescriptions over the years and getting no relief, weed is the only thing that's ever made me feel balanced. My brain has always been running in overdrive, and weed slows things down, helps me focus, and keeps me grounded. Before this, I went through dark times, relying on alcohol, getting hooked on painkillers. It almost destroyed me. Weed helped me crawl out of that hole. It didn't just make life manageable. It actually made it better. So yeah, I know people judge it, but for me, it's been life-changing. It's not a party drug. It's my peace. Story 2. Growing up, I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world, except it wasn't mine. My mom used me as her emotional support system. Whenever she was upset, lonely, or frustrated, I was the one she turned to. It didn't matter how I felt. I had to be strong. Because of that, I missed out on a normal childhood. While other kids were making friends and having fun, I was trying to keep my mom together. I felt like I couldn't have dreams of my own because anytime I did, she made me feel guilty, like I was selfish for wanting something for myself. What made it worse was that my dad knew what was going on. He saw it but chose to stay silent. He was emotionally checked out, and his silence only made me feel more alone. The guilt she laid on me still lingers. I was expected to be the person she needed, not the person I wanted to be. It's something I'm still unpacking to this day. Story 3. Every now and then, I sneak off to the beach or a quiet pool by myself. I put on a Speedo not to show off or make a statement, but because it's the best way to get a proper tan on my legs. I've been married for over 2 decades, a dad, and very much straight. But growing up as a guy in the US, there was always this strange rule that swim trunks had to be long and loose. Anything else felt controversial. When I'm at the beach alone, lying in the sun, I feel free. There's no one judging me, no weird looks, no expectations. Just sunshine and silence. I don't do it often, but when I do, it feels like I'm doing something just for me. It's funny how something so small can feel like a quiet rebellion against years of pressure to fit in. I know some people wouldn't understand, but that's okay. It's my little secret moment of peace. Story 4. There were 2 times in my life when I felt so low, I thought about ending everything. The last time was the worst. I actually laid down on train tracks. I thought I was ready to let it all go. But something inside me stopped me. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the thought of how it would affect the people I love. Whatever it was, I got up and walked away, shaken but still breathing. Since then, I've struggled with feeling like I'm just existing instead of living. Everyone around me seems to be chasing dreams, making progress. Me? I feel stuck, like I'm watching life from the sidelines. There are moments when I imagine being truly happy, but it always feels just out of reach. Still, there's a part of me that refuses to give up. It's small, just a flicker, but it's there. And for now, that's enough to keep going. Story 5. After a really rough breakup, I found myself in a place I never thought I'd be. I felt empty, worthless, and desperate to feel something. Anything. That's when I made a choice I never expected. I met with a few escorts. It wasn't about the physical part as much as it was about feeling seen. For a little while, I could just be myself without judgment. It helped me climb out of a dark place. Years later, I'm married with kids, but I still struggle with unmet emotional and physical needs. My partner and I are intimate maybe once a month, and that's being generous. So I found a strange kind of outlet, campsites. It's become something that fills the gap. I've even formed real connections with some of the women on there. I know it's not ideal and I keep it hidden, but it helps me feel alive in a way that nothing else does right now. Story 6. There's this guy who lives nearby, and every time I see him, I feel something I can't explain. I'm married, with kids, and very much in love with my wife. But this guy, he just has this energy that pulls me in. He doesn't have to do anything special. A glance, a smile, That's all it would take for me to lose control. I haven't acted on it, and I try to keep my distance. But I can't lie to myself. The attraction is real. It's confusing. I've never thought of myself as anything but straight, and yet here I am, caught up in something I can't talk about with anyone. It's like living in two worlds. One where I'm a devoted husband and one where I'm quietly battling feelings I never thought I'd have. For now, I keep it to myself. But it's always there. Story 7. When I was in my early 20s, I made one of the most reckless choices of my life. I borrowed my dad's car, already tipsy, and drove across the city to pick up some coke. The dealer, a big guy I barely knew, asked for a ride. I said yes without thinking. We're driving through the city, me high and nervous, when a cop on a motorbike taps on my window. My heart nearly stopped. I was in a suit from work, sweating bullets, with a bag of coke in my pocket and a stranger in the passenger seat. The cop asked why my headlights were off. I turned them on, trying to act cool. Then he asked if I'd been drinking. I said no, praying he'd buy it. He looked at both of us, then said, "Drive safe," and walked away. I was stunned. The second he left, I tossed the drugs and never touched coke again. That moment changed everything. Story 8. I carry a lot of resentment toward my dad for how he treated me growing up. He said things that broke me, did things that left scars. Because of that pain, I made a lot of bad decisions. I pushed away people who cared about me. I hurt people I loved. I sabotaged relationships because I didn't know how to accept love or trust anyone. I chased things that made me feel worthy for a moment, but it never lasted. There are people I've hurt who didn't deserve it, and I think about them all the time. I hope they can forgive me someday, but even if they don't, I understand. I live with those mistakes every day. I'm trying to become better, but healing takes time. And owning what I've done is part of that process. Story 9. My parents think I met one of my closest friends at a car meet in Canada. We both drive the same model, so it's a believable story. But the truth? We actually met on a kink site. Before you assume, it's not like that. We're not dating, we've never hooked up. We're just good friends who happen to meet in an unconventional way. It's funny how people create their own version of the truth. My parents have this wholesome backstory about how we bonded over cars. Meanwhile, they have no idea about the real origin of our friendship. It's not something I feel the need to explain. We connected in a way that worked for us. And that's all that matters. Story 10. Lately, everything around me feels gray. The trees, the sky, the flowers, they all used to feel so vibrant. Now everything's dull. I remember being a kid and feeling amazed by the smallest things. I miss that feeling so much that I even started wearing yellow-tinted glasses just to try and bring that brightness back. But it doesn't really work. I wouldn't say I'm sad. I'm not exactly happy either. I'm just here. I care deeply about a few people, but for everyone else, I feel nothing. It's like I'm disconnected from the world around me. There is one thing that makes me feel something, though: helping people. Doing something good for someone without expecting anything in return gives me a strange warmth. It's the only time I feel real joy, but I've never told anyone. I don't think they'd understand. Story 11. I had a relationship that lasted 7 years. When it ended, it felt like my entire world collapsed. I moved back home and stayed in my room for almost 2 years. My family thought I was studying the whole time, prepping for exams, working hard. But the truth is, I could barely get out of bed. Most days, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I couldn't move. Leaving my room, even just for a meal, felt like putting on a mask. I'd smile, say I was okay. But I wasn't. Not even close. That breakup broke something inside me. It wasn't just losing a partner. I lost my sense of direction, my drive, my confidence. I thought I'd never get back on track. Looking back now, I regret wasting so much time. But I also understand that healing doesn't have a timeline. I eventually came out of that fog piece by piece. And while I still carry the pain, I'm in a better place now. I survived it. That counts for something. Story 12. At my cousin's wedding reception, I slipped away to the bathroom just to take a breather. I walked in expecting an empty room. But instead, I found the groom and one of his groomsmen deep in conversation. They didn't notice me right away, so I stayed quiet, unsure whether to leave or wait. That's when I realized what they were talking about. The groomsman was giving the groom a detailed rundown of how his wedding night might go, step by step, like it was some kind of mission briefing. It wasn't just awkward, it was surreal. They weren't laughing or joking around. It was serious. The groomsman was making sure my cousin's new husband was ready for the night ahead. I stood there, frozen, trying to figure out if I should interrupt or just pretend I hadn't heard a thing. Eventually, I just walked out quietly and didn't say a word. I never told anyone about what I heard. Weddings are usually about love and celebration. But that moment, it was just weird, like stepping into a scene from a show I didn't sign up to watch. Story 13. When I was 22, my parents and I visited some close family friends who had a lake house in upstate New York. It was peaceful, boating, relaxing, catching up, just a nice trip. A few weeks after we left, those friends casually mentioned that the police had been called to the house next door. Apparently, a marriage was falling apart. At first, I didn't think anything of it until I remembered what happened during our visit. While we were there, I had a brief fling with the neighbor's wife. Once at night, once during the day. It felt spontaneous and wild at the time, something I didn't really think through. Now, I can't help but wonder if I was part of the reason their marriage crumbled. I didn't know their story. I didn't ask questions. I was young, selfish, and just thinking about the moment. It's weird to think that a weekend getaway, meant to be relaxing, might have left behind more than just memories. I'll never really know if I was the cause, but the thought still lingers in the back of my mind. Story 14. Back in 2020, when everything shut down and school went online, I was 14 and stuck at home, feeling totally lost. That's when I found a strange escape: writing dark romance stories. What started as a way to pass time turned into a full-blown obsession. I wrote every day, sometimes for 6 or 7 hours. I poured everything into those stories: heartbreak, tension, love, pain. I ended up writing dozens of novellas, most of which never saw the light of day. Some were lost to broken phones and dead laptops. Still, one story went viral. It wasn't even my favorite, but it blew up. That moment, seeing my work appreciated, was unforgettable. I even showed one of my stories to a girl I liked at school. She loved it, and we ended up going on 3 dates. It felt like my writing had opened a door I never expected. Now I'm older, and I don't write as much anymore, but I'll always remember that time. It was chaotic, exhausting, and a little weird, but it was also the first time I felt like my voice mattered. Story 15. After a painful divorce from my high school sweetheart, I completely lost it. Valentine's Day came around, and instead of feeling sorry for myself, I decided to go all in on something wild. I booked a fancy hotel by the bay and invited every Tinder match I had, at different times, of course. By the end of the day, I had hooked up with between 10 and 15 guys. It was chaotic, a little insane, but it gave me a strange sense of control. Later, I moved out of state and ended up involved in an open marriage with a man and his wife. It was fun for a while, until the husband started spending more time with me than with his own wife. Things got messy. And then came the twist. I found out the wife knew my estranged aunt. Turns out we were both seeing the same guy. Yep, I became Eskimo sisters with my aunt, 20 years older than me. All this happened while I was living with my ultra-conservative grandparents. Honestly, life during that time was like a soap opera. I still can't believe it happened. Story 16. Whenever my boyfriend and I go to concerts, we book a hotel for the night. We tell everyone it's because the show will end late and we'll be too tired to drive home. But that's not the real reason. The truth? We like to roll on MDMA before the show and spend the night enjoying each other's company afterward. It's become our little tradition. The lights, the music, the connection. It all feels heightened. And then, back at the hotel, it's like we're in our own little world. My parents are pretty laid back about weed, so they'd never suspect anything more. But if they knew about the MDMA, they'd flip. It's funny how people draw lines when it comes to certain substances. We're not reckless, we plan it out, we're safe, and we don't do it often. But those nights, they're some of our favorite memories. It's not about escaping reality. It's about enhancing the moment together. Story 17. For a few years, I wrote smut under several pen names and made decent money doing it. I treated it like a full-time job. Each morning, I'd check what was trending in the ebook world and write stories based on popular themes. If motorcycle werewolf dads were trending, I'd write it. I'm a straight guy, but I wrote under female or ambiguous names. Some of my best-selling stories were lesbian romance or queer fantasy. It was weird at first, but also kind of eye-opening. Writing for different identities helped me learn a lot about people and preferences I didn't understand before. It was honestly wholesome in a strange way. Eventually, I had to stop. The genre started leaning into uncomfortable territory, pseudo-incest, unrealistic BDSM, and I didn't feel right contributing to that. Plus, my wife and I were starting a family, and I wanted something more stable. I never told my family what I really wrote. They think I was just a freelance editor. And honestly, that's fine. Story 18. Most days, I feel like I'm juggling 10 things at once. Between work, bills, and my kids' endless schedules, I don't remember the last time I had a moment to breathe. I can't really talk to my wife or the kids about it. They're dealing with their own stuff and I don't want to add to the pressure. But inside, I'm exhausted. I wish I had a personal assistant to help with all the school emails, text threads, and appointments. Or a driver just to get everyone where they need to be on time. It's not just about being tired. It's about feeling stretched thin in every direction. I keep telling myself to push through, and I do. But some days it feels like I'm barely hanging on. Still, I smile, keep it together, and do my best. That's what being a parent means, right? You show up, even when you're falling apart inside. Story 19. In my family, gossip is like a sport. I've heard my relatives talk about each other so much, I know exactly how it works. Everyone thinks they know everything, but no one really does. So I started playing along. Sometimes, I'll drop a little lie into a conversation just to see how far it spreads. It's not malicious, it's more like a social experiment. And sure enough, a few weeks later, I'll hear that same lie repeated back to me as truth. It's wild how confident they are when they talk about my life, completely unaware that I planted the story in the first place. I know it's a little mischievous, but it keeps things interesting. Better they focus on fake drama than dig into real stuff I'd rather keep private. Honestly, it's become my little game. And I'm winning. Story 20. I lost my virginity at 19 to an escort. At the time, I was so ashamed of being a virgin that I felt like I had to fix it. Growing up, I was bullied, told I wasn't attractive, and made to feel less than by my own family. So I booked someone online. She was kind, older, and incredibly understanding. I only paid for 30 minutes, and we spent most of it talking. She gave me advice, listened to me, and even hugged me before I left. That hug? It was the first time in years I felt real kindness through touch. The twist? Just a few months later, a close friend of mine asked if I wanted to be friends with benefits. Someone I trusted, someone who actually cared. And I couldn't help but think, if I had just waited, my first time could have been something meaningful. That thought still stings even now. Story 21. I love my husband's mom's side of the family more than I love him most days. Don't get me wrong. I care about him. I keep hoping he'll get his act together. But if I'm being honest, I stay in this marriage mostly because of his side of the family. His mom, her siblings, cousins, everyone. They've been nothing but warm and accepting. Something I never had growing up. My husband takes after his dad's side. Controlling, loud, and obsessed with money. We've been together 6 years, and things weren't always this bad. But ever since he started his business and got into politics, something changed. He's angrier, colder, and I'm the one holding it all together. I gave him an ultimatum. Cut those toxic family ties or I'm moving in with your mom's side. He gave in somewhat, but the issues haven't gone away. Still, I stay for the kids, for the support, and because I have nowhere else to turn. My own family is out of the picture. I know if I ever left him, I might lose his mom too. And that would break me. So I pretend. I smile. And I keep this secret to myself. Story 22. My wife and I are technically separated, but we still live in the same house, for our daughter's sake. She stays on the top floor. I stay downstairs. We each have our own rooms, our own lives, but we keep up appearances so our daughter feels secure. Most people in our families know the truth. It's not some big secret. But what stings is how differently our families reacted. My family still treats her like one of their own. They invite her to dinners, message her in the family group chat, and act like nothing's changed. But her family? They cut me off instantly. No calls, no messages, just silence. It's a strange kind of pain. I loved her family. They felt like a second home. Losing them hit harder than I expected. I never thought people who once hugged me and laughed with me would turn cold so fast. I'm not angry, just hurt. I know people pick sides, but I never imagined I'd be erased that quickly. So here I am, still under the same roof, trying to hold it together for our kid, while quietly grieving the second family I didn't realize I'd lose. Story 23. Back in college, my life spiraled into something I never saw coming. I was 21, renting a room from a woman in her 50s. She was confident, flirty, and one thing led to another. We started hooking up, not serious, just casual. Then I met her daughters. One was 25, the other barely legal. Somehow, I ended up involved with both of them too. I knew it was messy, but I couldn't stop. Just when I thought my love life couldn't get any more complicated, her sister came to visit, and yep, I got involved with her as well. For 3 years, I was juggling all 4 women. I didn't try to hide it, but I didn't advertise it either. I was always exhausted, barely keeping up with school or work. It was like living in a TV drama, except it was real life. Eventually, I graduated, moved away, and it all came to an end. But the experience left a mark. It made it hard for me to trust or commit for a long time. Now, years later, I look back and still can't believe I lived like that. It was wild, confusing, and honestly, kind of lonely. Story 24. I have a little habit I've kept hidden for years. Every day after 5 p.m., I light up and smoke weed. It's my way to unwind, to relax after a long day. But I didn't want my family constantly checking in or judging me. So I told them I unplug after 5 o'clock. No phone, no calls, nothing. They think it's a mental health break from screen time. In reality, it's just my time to chill in peace. This little lie has worked so well that now I have to keep up the act. If my phone rings after 5 o'clock, I ignore it. If I'm at a family event, I pretend to shut my phone off out of habit. It's gotten to the point where I have to remember to keep the story straight, even when I'm not high. I've created this whole narrative just to protect my space. It's not that I'm ashamed of smoking, it's just that I don't want the constant questions and comments. This ritual keeps me sane. And as strange as it sounds, pretending to unplug has made everyone leave me alone. Which is exactly what I wanted in the first place. Story 25. Every few months, when life feels too heavy, I disappear for a few days. I tell people I'm visiting my old city for a break. But the truth is much darker. I go there to binge hard. I check into a cheap room and dive headfirst into a cocktail of drugs. Not just one. I'll mix 4 or 5 substances, anything except crack. I know that one would destroy me. I wander through the city, hang out with people I'd normally avoid, visit places I'd never go sober. During these binges, I become someone else. I stop caring about consequences. I lose track of time, of who I am. It's risky, sometimes dangerous, but it pulls me out of the darkness in a strange way. What's worse? I used to think about ending my life almost daily, but now I don't. These binges became a twisted form of survival. When it's over, I go back to my normal life, pretending nothing happened. I show up clean, quiet, and collected. No one knows the truth. No one would understand. But to me, those chaotic nights are better than falling into the void again. Story 26. During a study abroad trip in Italy, I had one of the wildest weeks of my life. I was staying in a youth hostel, just trying to enjoy my time overseas. That's where I met 2 girls, and one night, things escalated into a spontaneous threesome. It felt surreal, like something out of a movie. But the next night, I met another girl at a bar. We hit it off fast, and I ended up spending the night at her hotel. I didn't think much of it. I was young, single, and far from home. Here's where it gets awkward. I continued seeing one of the original girls from the hostel. We went on several casual dates afterward. I never told her about the other girl from the hotel. Looking back, I know that wasn't fair. At the time, it felt like a harmless adventure. But now, I realize those choices had weight. I never meant to hurt anyone, but I wasn't thinking about anyone but myself. It was a week full of impulsive decisions, and even now, I sometimes wonder how things might have been different if I had just been honest. Story 27. I've developed this little habit that feels both ridiculous and freeing. Every now and then, I sneak away to a nearby beach or community pool, put on a tight Speedo, and just sunbathe. To be clear, I'm a married American guy, straight, and a dad. But something about wearing a Speedo feels right. It's not about showing off. It's just the best way to tan my legs and feel the sun without all the extra fabric. Growing up, I was always told men should wear long swim trunks. Anything else was too much. But when I'm out there alone, just me and the sun, I feel free. I don't care about the stares or what people might think. It's not something I do often, and definitely not something I share with friends or family. It's my little rebellion, a way to reclaim something that was always made to feel off-limits. People might laugh if they knew, but to me it's not a joke. It's peace. Story 28. After I stopped using birth control, something unexpected happened. My sex drive skyrocketed. I'm single, a lesbian, and not really seeing anyone, so I figured I didn't need it anymore. What I didn't realize was how much it had been keeping my libido in check. Now, for about a week every month, I get overwhelmed by desire. It hits me completely out of nowhere. I'll be doing something totally normal. Working, cooking, whatever, and suddenly I'm in this intense state of need. The strange part is how lonely it makes me feel. I don't have anyone to share that part of myself with. So I'm left alone, dealing with it the only way I can. Privately, quietly, and with a bit of humor. It's become this odd routine that no one knows about. I laugh at myself sometimes because it's just so bizarre. I never expected this to be part of my life, but here we are. It's not something I'd ever bring up in conversation, but it's real. It's mine, and I've learned to live with it. Story 29. For about 2 years, I did something I never thought I would. I became a sex worker, but not in the way most people imagine. I didn't work on the street or in a club. I offered a highly specific service: adult nursing. I had just given birth and was 8 months postpartum. My husband and I were drowning in debt, living in a tiny apartment we couldn't afford, and desperate for a way out. So we made a choice. Men paid me to breastfeed them. Sounds strange even now, but it was safe, legal, and surprisingly profitable. The men had their reasons, some emotional, some physical, and I provided what they were looking for. We never told anyone. Not family, not friends. It's our shared secret, the thing that helped us clear our debts, buy a car, and move to a better place. It gave us a fresh start. I don't regret it. It was weird, sure, but it worked, and it got us through a time when we didn't have many options. Story 30. I was only 33 credit hours away from finishing my mechanical engineering degree when I dropped out. I never told my family the real reason. They think I finished and just chose not to walk at graduation. The truth? I hated it. Every class, every assignment, it felt like drowning. I only chose engineering because my parents pushed me into it. They paid for everything, had big dreams, and I didn't want to disappoint them. But I couldn't fake it anymore. I left quietly and started working in IT. Turns out I love it. I make good money, and I actually enjoy what I do. But every time someone asks about my degree, I change the subject or lie. If my family ever found out, I think it would break their hearts. They were so proud. So I keep up the act, pretending I'm someone I'm not. It eats at me sometimes living with this lie. But I don't regret leaving school. I just wish I could be honest about it. Story 31. Becoming a father wasn't part of my plan, especially not the way it happened. A few months before lockdown, I was in London for work, single and just exploring life. I matched with a woman on Tinder, and we hit it off instantly. She was a little older than me, but we had great chemistry. We hooked up, and I genuinely liked her. Then she disappeared. I didn't hear from her again until 6 months later, right in the middle of the pandemic. She messaged me to say she was pregnant. The twist? She was married. She made it clear she didn't want anything from me. She said I was just the donor in this situation, and that was it. I was stunned. I didn't know how to respond, and before I could process it, she was gone again. A few months later, I got an anonymous email with a photo of the baby. No name, no message. Just the picture. I haven't heard from her since. No follow-up. No explanation. I think about that baby sometimes, wondering what kind of role, if any, I'll ever play. But for now, it's just a photo and a memory I never expected to carry. Story 32. Growing up in the South, my mom had very specific ideas about relationships. She never said anything openly racist, but she made it clear that if I ever dated someone from a different background, especially a black boy, I'd ruin my chances with white guys. It was framed like friendly advice, but I understood the real message. Years later, I think about that a lot, especially because the first time I was intimate with another woman, she was a beautiful, kind black woman. We met through mutual friends and sparks flew immediately. I didn't think about my mom's words until afterward, when I caught myself wondering how she'd react. Would she be angry? Disappointed? Would she even care now that I'm older? I'll probably never tell her, and that makes me sad. Not because I want her approval, but because I wish I didn't have to hide something that brought me joy. It's strange how words from your childhood can stick with you long after you've outgrown them. I'm not ashamed of what happened, not even close, but part of me still hears her voice, quietly judging something she'll never understand. Story 33. People know I used to do escort work. What they don't know is who most of my clients actually were. Everyone assumes I was hooking up with rich housewives or adventurous couples. The truth is much different. Most of my clients were older gay men, guys in their 50s and 60s who weren't looking for anything physical, just someone to talk to, someone to sit with them, laugh with them, make them feel human again. Some were lonely. Some had families that didn't accept them. A few just wanted to feel seen without judgment. I became that person, at least for a little while. It was never what people imagined when they heard the word escort. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't wild. But it was real. I don't talk about it much. People hear escort and assume a whole different story. But for me, it was about connection, about helping people feel less alone. I eventually left that life behind, but I still think about some of those men. The stories they told, the kindness they showed. They weren't just clients. They were people who changed the way I see the world. Story 34. Everyone thinks I sold my motorcycle because of financial trouble or rising costs. That's what I told them, and it's partly true. But the real reason, I lost access to the mechanic I was secretly hooking up with. Back in my old city, I had this arrangement. A talented mechanic, smart, discreet, and very into me. Whenever something broke on the bike, he'd fix it fast and barely charge me. In return, well, it was a trade. It wasn't love. It wasn't even friendship. But it worked. My bike stayed running and I saved a fortune. Then I moved cities for work, and the arrangement ended. Suddenly, every little issue became expensive. No more free tune-ups. No more favors. Just overpriced shops and repairs I couldn't justify. Eventually, I had to let the bike go. I told my dad it was the economy, that I'd outgrown it. He was disappointed. He thought I loved riding. And I did. But not enough to keep the lie going. Sometimes I miss the bike. But mostly, I miss how easy things used to be when someone else handled the hard parts. No questions asked. Story 35. Being around my in-laws feels like walking into a storm that never ends. They've been miserable together for years, probably decades. Every visit is filled with tension, passive-aggressive remarks, and uncomfortable silences. What's worse is that no one in the family talks about it. My wife's siblings just glance at each other when the fighting starts, then pretend nothing's happening. It's like everyone agreed to ignore the obvious. Her dad's actually a great guy, chill, thoughtful, someone I enjoy talking to. But her mom? She's a lot. Controlling, critical, and always finding something to complain about. If I never had to see her again, I honestly wouldn't mind. I've tried to stay out of it, but it's hard watching people you care about live like that. They're clearly unhappy, but they won't separate. Maybe it's the history, maybe it's fear, or maybe they just don't know how to start over. All I know is that I dread every holiday and family event. I love my wife, I love our kids, but if I could magically erase her mother from the picture, life would be a whole lot easier. Story 36. Jake invited me to his church's trivia night, mostly for the free pizza. I figured I could fake a few Bible answers and eat my weight in pepperoni. I didn't expect to accidentally start someone's religious transformation. One of the questions was, "What's the fastest-growing Christian denomination?" Without thinking, I mumbled, "Probably the Mormons. They're out here grinding like streamers on launch day." Turns out the youth pastor, Pastor Dan, heard me and thought I was really into Mormonism. He started asking me questions, and I just rolled with it. I remembered a bunch of facts from a Wikipedia binge after watching the Book of Mormon musical. I figured it was just small talk. But a few weeks later, Jake told me Pastor Dan had started reading the Book of Mormon. Like seriously reading it. Then came the bombshell. He announced to the church that he was converting. I was stunned. I'd shown up for pizza and accidentally inspired a full-on faith shift. I still don't know how to feel about it. On one hand, I admire his curiosity. On the other, I might be banned from trivia night forever. Story 37. Years ago, my ex and I decided to post a few videos on a popular adult site. We were young, broke, and curious. Started off as just something fun to try, and surprisingly, we made money. A few of the videos even got popular. We gained followers, earned some cash, and had this strange little world we shared. It was our secret until it wasn't. After we broke up, we agreed to take everything down. Deleted the account, wiped the files. But we both knew that once something's online, it's never really gone. Every now and then, I wonder if those videos are still floating around. Someone, somewhere, might still be watching a piece of our past that we thought was buried. I don't regret it. We weren't hurting anyone. But I wouldn't want my family or future kids to stumble across it. That's the part that makes me nervous. It was a chapter in my life. Fun, reckless, and a little naive. But it's one I've closed for good. I just hope the internet does the same. Story 38. I tell people I run a small business making custom plushies and handmade accessories. That's true, sort of. I do crochet and sell cute stuff online. But that's not where the real money comes from. The truth? I make most of my income designing custom latex fetish wear. Masks, suits, harnesses, you name it. It started as a side hustle during a rough financial patch, but it took off way faster than expected. Now it's my main income stream. My clients are loyal, respectful, and willing to pay top dollar for quality work. This niche, sure, but it's also incredibly profitable. My family has no idea. They think I'm just selling plushies and scarves. If they knew what was really funding my lifestyle, they'd probably lose their minds. But honestly, I'm proud of what I do. I've built something from scratch. I've created a space where people can feel seen and wear what makes them feel confident. That's more than most jobs offer. I just keep the full details to myself. Some things are better left unexplained. Story 39. I'm a straight guy, happily married, super secure in who I am. But there's something I've never told my family. I sometimes wear makeup. Started as a joke. Just eyeliner and some black nail polish for Halloween. But I liked how it looked. It made me feel comfortable, almost relaxed in a way I didn't expect. I've got long hair, and when I add the makeup, I feel like I'm slipping into a different version of myself. Not feminine, not masculine, just me. I'm not trying to make a statement, and I'm not confused about my identity. I just like how it feels. I don't do it often, mostly when I'm alone or out of town. But I've kept it a secret because I know how my family would react. They'd ask questions, make jokes, or worse, think something was wrong with me. But nothing's wrong. I'm still me. I just happen to enjoy things that don't fit into a box they understand. This part of me is small and quiet, but it's real. And it's mine. Story 40. My wife has a past that no one in my family knows about, and I plan to keep it that way. Before we met, she uploaded explicit videos online. Some were with exes, others were solo. They're still out there if you know where to look. I knew about it before we got serious. She was open and honest, and I respected that. Her past didn't bother me. What mattered was who she was with me. But my family? They'd never understand. They see her as this sweet, perfect woman. If they ever saw those videos, it would destroy that image. Some of the guys in those videos are people I know. Friends of friends. That part still messes with my head sometimes. But I made peace with it. We all have chapters we don't want read out loud. Hers just happens to have been filmed. I don't regret marrying her. I love her. But this is one part of our story I'll never share. Story 41. I make my living by drawing furry kink art. Yep, that's my full-time job, and honestly, I earn more from it than I ever did working in retail or design firms. I work from home, set my own schedule, and deal with respectful, paying clients who truly value what I do. Compared to the micromanaging bosses and soul-crushing deadlines I had in corporate jobs, this life is a breath of fresh air. When people ask what I do for work, I usually say I'm a freelance illustrator or graphic designer. If they push for details, I tell them I'm still building my online portfolio. It's vague enough to satisfy curiosity without opening a can of awkward questions. My family has no idea. They think I make plushies and design t-shirts. That's technically true, but it's not what pays the bills. I don't feel ashamed. I found a niche that works for me, gives me freedom, and allows me to support myself comfortably. It's not conventional, and it's definitely not something I'll bring up at Thanksgiving, but it's mine. And I'm proud of how far I've come, even if no one else ever really knows what I do. Story 42. When I was 20 and home from college for the summer, I took a part-time job just to stay busy and earn some cash. That's when I met her. 27 years old, confident, and separated from her husband, or so she said. We started seeing each other casually. She told me she was on birth control, and I didn't question it. I was young, inexperienced, and honestly just happy someone that cool was into me. A few months later, I returned to college and we lost touch. Then, during a visit home, my mom casually mentioned that the woman had gotten pregnant, but had a miscarriage. At first, I was stunned. Then something clicked. My mom said she thought it was strange because, as far as she knew, the woman was still living with her husband. That's when it hit me. Was the baby even his? Was it mine? I'll never know for sure. I never reached out. I didn't want to stir anything up. But that question still lingers in the back of my mind. It's a strange kind of weight to carry, knowing a piece of your past might be bigger than you ever realized. Story 43. I was 15 when it happened. My dad had just remarried a woman who drank way too much. She was loud, unpredictable, but I never thought she'd cross a line. One night, my dad was working late, and I was home alone with her. She had clearly been drinking. At first, it was just her usual rambling, but then she started getting too close, touching my arm, laughing at things that weren't funny. I froze. I didn't know what to do. I was just a kid. She made a comment, something suggestive. I made an excuse and left the room as fast as I could. I didn't sleep that night. My dad loved her. Or at least he tried to. He never saw the things I saw. I never told him. What would I even say? That his wife came on to his teenage son while drunk? Years later, they divorced. I never brought it up. I don't see the point. It wouldn't change anything, and I don't want to reopen that door. It's a memory I've locked away. But it's still there. Always will be. Story 44. When I was 14, I came out to my parents as trans. Their reaction was devastating. I was grounded, lectured, and made to feel like I had done something wrong. Every conversation turned into a fight. I felt completely alone. Eventually, I stopped bringing it up. I let them believe I grew out of it or changed my mind. But I never did. Now, I live a double life. At home, I go by my old name. But everywhere else, school, work, with friends, I'm me. My real name. My real identity. They don't know the truth. And I won't tell them until I'm out of their house. I need to be somewhere safe when I finally say it again. I'm waiting for the right moment. Not because I want to lie, but because I need to protect myself. I've already seen how they react, and I can't risk being stuck with no escape. One day, I'll tell them everything. I'll finally be able to live fully as myself without hiding. But for now, I'm just counting down the days until I can walk out the door as the real me and never look back. Story 45. I used to work in a prison. It was supposed to be a job, just something to pay the bills. But it changed me in ways I didn't see coming. There were two moments I'll never forget. The first was a guy who threw a wheelchair at a nurse. The second, someone who got in my face and shoved me. In both cases, I snapped. I grabbed them, pushed back harder than I should have, and came scarily close to going too far. In one moment, I had my hands around someone's neck. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't feeling. I was just gone. A voice, my lieutenant, had to yell my name over and over before I let go. And the worst part? I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel anything. That's when I realized something inside me had changed. I've seen things, done things that numb you. And now I'm not sure I'll ever get that part of me back. My family knows I've changed. They see it in my eyes, in the way I talk. But they don't know the truth. They don't know what I'm capable of. And I plan to keep it that way. Story 46. I've been secretly paying for my brother's therapy for over a year. He thinks it's a non-profit program covering the cost. But it's not. It's me. He's been through a lot: depression, anxiety, and a bad breakup that nearly broke him. Our parents don't believe in therapy. They think it's a waste of money and just talking to strangers. But I saw how close he came to giving up. I couldn't watch him slip away. So I asked his therapist if I could quietly cover his sessions. They agreed, as long as he never knew. He's doing better now. He laughs more, eats more, and even started dating again. He says the program changed his life. Sometimes I want to tell him, but I don't. I don't want him to feel indebted or weird about it. I just want him to live. And if that means I keep this secret forever, I will. Story 47. Everyone thinks I'm allergic to cats. I've told coworkers, friends, even dates. It's my go-to excuse for not visiting certain homes or adopting pets. But I'm not allergic. I just don't like cats. I know that sounds petty, but people can be intense about their pets. Saying I don't like cats makes me the villain. So I lie. Oh no. I'd love to visit, but my cat allergy's awful. Boom, no judgment, no lectures. Started with a white lie in college, and now it's part of my identity. People bring it up before I do. Don't forget, they have a cat, they'll warn. Like I'm at risk of going into anaphylactic shock at brunch. I've had to fake sneezing. Once I even pretended to take a Benadryl in front of someone. It's ridiculous, I know. But it's easier than dealing with the backlash of saying I just prefer dogs. Or silence. Or literally anything else. So, yeah, no allergy. Just a preference I've buried under years of fake reactions. Story 48. I don't believe in soulmates, but I met mine anyway. She was perfect for me, smart, funny, and kind in a way that felt rare. We clicked instantly, the kind of connection people write songs about. But we met at the wrong time. She was engaged. I was freshly out of a long relationship. We kept things platonic, but the tension was always there. Unspoken, lingering in the background of every conversation. We'd talk for hours, share secrets, and laugh about things no one else found funny. I never crossed a line. Neither did she. But we both knew. Eventually, she got married. I attended the wedding. She smiled at me during the vows, and I smiled back. It was the most painful kindness I've ever shown someone. We talk less now. Life happened. Distance grew. But I still think about her sometimes. Wondering what would have happened if we'd met just a little earlier or a little later. I don't believe in soulmates. But if they exist, I let mine go without ever touching her. Story 49. I've never told anyone this, but I once faked a job for 6 months. I was supposed to start a remote position after college, but the offer was rescinded last minute. I was too embarrassed to tell my family, so I pretended I still had it. Every morning, I'd log in at my desk. I type, click around, even take fake lunch breaks. My parents would check in, proud that I landed something right away. I hated lying, but the shame of unemployment felt worse. I applied for hundreds of jobs during that time. Rejections piled up. The stress was unbearable. I lost weight, stopped sleeping, and had constant anxiety about being found out. Eventually, I got hired for real. A good company, decent pay. I deleted the fake email account I'd made to back up the lie and never mentioned what happened. My parents still think I transitioned from one job to the next without a gap. I know I should feel proud of where I am now, but a part of me still carries the guilt of that lie. It was born out of fear, but it kept me afloat. Story 50. During my final year of college, I was completely sober. Not by choice, but because I was secretly pregnant. I didn't tell anyone. Not my roommates, not my professors, not even the father. I was terrified and convinced I could handle it alone. I hid the bump under baggy clothes, skipped parties, and blamed personal issues for missed classes. I gave birth a week after graduation. No cap and gown, no photos, just a hospital room and a quiet adoption. The family I chose was kind, stable, and ready in a way I never could have been. I still get updates, photos every few months, a little card on my birthday thanking me for my gift. People think I was just a really focused student, that I skipped the drinking and drama because I was driven. But the truth is, I was carrying a life and pretending mine wasn't falling apart. Now, years later, I'm doing well. Career, apartment, everything looks fine. But sometimes, I see a toddler at the park and wonder if it's him. And I quietly hope he's happy. Story 51. I run a secret Instagram account where I post about my mental health. No selfies, no names, just words. I write about anxiety, burnout, grief, and everything I can't say out loud. It started during lockdown. I was overwhelmed, isolated, and tired of pretending everything was okay. I didn't want sympathy. I just needed to say it somewhere. To my surprise, people started responding. Strangers shared their stories in the comments, sent DMs thanking me, even reposted my words. It became this little community of people who felt just as lost as I did. No one in my real life knows. Not my partner, not my friends. I post from a burner email and keep the account totally separate. It's the only place I feel like I can be fully honest. Some days I think about revealing my identity, but I'm scared it'll ruin the magic. Right now, I'm just someone with a voice, and that's enough. It's strange how the most honest version of me exists behind a screen name. But it's real, and that makes all the difference. Story 52. I still sleep with a stuffed animal. I'm a grown adult with a full-time job, a mortgage, and a partner. But every night, I tuck in a little plush fox I've had since I was 5. It started as comfort. My parents fought a lot, and that fox was the one thing that made me feel safe. I could squeeze it when the yelling got too loud or hide under the blankets with it when things got scary. As I got older, I kept it hidden. In college, it stayed in my pillowcase. When I moved in with my partner, I pretended it was just sentimental. But here's the truth. I need it. Not in a childish way. It's more like a reminder that I've survived things, that I still deserve comfort, even now. Some nights, I'll hold it and feel like I'm 5 again. Scared, confused, hoping things get better. But most nights, it helps me sleep. And that's enough. Story 53. There's a guy I see on the train every morning. Same car, same seat, always reading the same worn-out book. We've never spoken, but I've imagined our life together 100 times. Silly, I know. I don't even know his name, but watching him became part of my routine. If he wasn't there, my day felt off. Once we made eye contact. He smiled. I smiled back, heart pounding like I was 16 again. I told myself I'd say something the next day. I rehearsed it in my head. Something casual, like asking about his book. But he didn't show up. Then the next day and the next. Eventually, I stopped seeing him altogether. I don't know what happened. Maybe he changed jobs. Maybe he moved. Maybe something worse. Now, every time I step onto the train, I still glance at that seat. Just in case. And even though we never spoke, I miss him. Not because I loved him, but because he reminded me how exciting hope can feel, even in the middle of an ordinary commute. Story 54. I used to steal from my job, but not money or items. I stole time. I worked at a call center and it was soul-crushing. Endless scripts, Angry callers, no room for creativity. So I made a routine. I'd pretend to be on long calls while actually writing stories in a hidden document. I'd minimize it whenever someone walked by. I wrote short fiction, poetry, even started a book. I'd spend hours crafting characters while management thought I was solving billing issues. It was the only thing that kept me sane. I was paid to sit there anyway. Might as well use the time to chase something that mattered. Eventually, I got fired. Not because of the writing, they just downsized the department. But by then, I had a finished manuscript and the confidence to submit it. Now I'm a published author. Not famous, not rich, but doing what I love. Story 55. I don't think I've ever truly been in love. I've dated, had flings, even been in a long-term relationship that everyone thought was the one. But deep down, I always felt like I was just playing along. People describe love like it's this lightning strike, undeniable and all-consuming. I've never felt that. I felt comfort, attraction, even obsession. But love? I'm not sure I'd recognize it if it walked up and said hello. Sometimes I worry I'm broken. Other times, I think I'm just wired differently. I've learned how to fake the right responses. Say, I love you back with the right timing, smile in photos. But I always feel like I'm observing myself from the outside. Like I'm acting in a role I was never cast for. I don't talk about this. Most people wouldn't understand. They'd either pity me or try to fix me. I don't want either. I just want to know if anyone else feels this way too. And if it's okay to live a whole life without ever feeling what everyone else says is essential. Story 56. I lied on my resume and it changed my life. I was desperate. Rent was overdue. My savings were gone. And I'd been ghosted by 3 interviews in a row. So when a job listing popped up for a position I wasn't quite qualified for, I tweaked a few bullet points. Made it sound like I had skills I didn't. Somehow I got the interview. Then the job. I spent the first 2 months terrified I'd be exposed. I stayed up late watching tutorials, reading manuals, even faked confidence in meetings. But eventually, I learned. I got good. Really good. Now, I've been at the company for 3 years. I've earned promotions, mentored new hires, and built a reputation I'm proud of. But I still remember that first day, walking in with a lie stitched into my shirt collar. It was wrong. I know that. But it was also the break I needed. I don't plan on lying again. I don't have to anymore. But I'll always carry the weight of that first step, and the strange mix of shame and pride that came with it. Story 57. My best friend and I haven't spoken in almost 4 years. No big fight. No betrayal. Just silence. We used to talk every day. Shared everything. Laughed until we cried. People thought we were inseparable. But life has a way of pulling people in different directions without you even noticing. She moved to another city. I got wrapped up in work. We stopped texting as often. Then one day, I realized I hadn't heard her voice in months. I still think about reaching out. I even drafted a message once. Simple, just hey, I miss you. But I didn't send it. I convinced myself she'd moved on, or worse, didn't miss me at all. The truth is, I'm scared. Scared that reconnecting would feel forced, that the magic we had is gone. But I also know that if she ever messaged me, I'd drop everything just to hear her laugh again. Some people fade quietly, and it hurts more than the loud endings. Story 58. I've been secretly learning sign language for the past year. Not for work or school. Not because I know anyone who's deaf, but because I heard a woman signing to her daughter at the grocery store, and it moved me in a way I can't explain. There was something so beautiful about the way they communicated. It made me realize how much of the world I take for granted. How much of it is centered around people who speak out loud. So I started watching videos, practicing fingerspelling, learning the grammar. I'm still a beginner, but I can hold a basic conversation now. Sometimes I imagine running into that woman again. I'd sign something simple, just enough to let her know I saw her, and I cared enough to learn. It's not about being a savior. It's about connection, about reaching across a gap I didn't even know existed. No one in my life knows I'm doing this. It's my quiet way of honoring a moment that changed me.